This week we're going to look at just one poem because I'm going to make one important but fairly simple point, and one poem will be enough to illustrate that. I called this video Meter is Meaning. What I want to show you is that we don't scan a poem just for fun, and a poet does not choose the meter at random because it sounds good, but that the meter and the meaning are intimately connected to the point where the meaning of a poem is produced in part by the meter that the poet chooses. Not all examples are going to be as obvious as the one I choose, and the meter is not always going to be as important as it is in this particular example. This is an example that I choose because it is very helpful to making the point that meter is essential. And when you do your papers, this is one of the things that you need to be looking for. All right, so I'm going to, as usual, just read this poem. It's an Emily Dickinson poem from the beginning to the end without comment, and then we're going to go through it, and we're going to scan it, and we're going to talk about what we notice when we scan it. Wild nights, were I with thee, wild nights should be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart, rowing in Eden, ah, the sea, might I but more to-night in thee. All right, now without talking about the content, let's just go through it line by line and scan the poem. Wild nights, all right. So I'm going to scan this. Wild nights. I'm going to call that iambic dimeter. And I will type that out for you if I can. So that first line, iambic dimeter. And let's continue on. Were I with thee, okay, iambic dimeter. That means there are 2 feet, and they are each iambs. They are each made of an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. So iambic, wild nights, dimeter, wild nights. Were I with thee, wild nights should be, we see a pattern, our luxury. So this is 4 lines of iambic dimeter. Right? Well, that's normal. Call this a quatrain. It's a quatrain in iambic dimeter. Futile the winds to a hot. Futile the winds. Well, we got something changed here. Futile the winds. Could you say futile the winds? You could, but I don't think that's what she intended, and it doesn't sound right to me. But certainly she's a New Englander like us. Futile the winds. So that's a trochee followed by an iamb. Well, that's what we call a substitution. Not unusual. Flip the iamb around to make a trochee, but that adds variety to the line, but doesn't really interrupt the pattern. To a heart in port. Well, now, but something else has happened here. We've got one more syllable in this line than we've had in every other line. To a heart in port. All right, so now we have an anapest followed by a dimeter. We still got that dimeter. We still got that iamb to root us. But the first foot of each of these 2 lines has changed, right? The foot breaks here. So the dimeter lines, but here's the trochee, here's the anapest. Done with the compass. Right? So here's where this one breaks. Now this is even more interesting. We've got a dactyl followed by a trochee. Something strange is happening. Now we're starting to notice the first stanza, 4 iambic dimeter lines. The second stanza, also a quatrain, 3 lines, but none of them in iambic dimeter. All of them dimeter, but none of them iambic. Something weird's happening. All right, let's find out what that is. Done with the chart. Okay, well, we finally got our iamb back, but now we've got a trochee plus an iamb. Well, this doesn't happen by chance. It's not as though Emily Dickinson got lazy and decided to stop writing in iambic dimeter. She's doing something. So the question is, what is she doing? Well, let's keep going and keep scanning before we try to answer that question. Rowing in Eden. All right, look at that. We've got now a dactyl followed by a trochee, which we've seen before. All in dimeter still. And then notice this next line is only 3 syllables long. Ah. Lost my orange. Oh, because I'm using the wrong pen here. Ah, the sea. So we've got here just and at the beginning of it, a stress syllable all by itself, followed by another iamb. There's a technical name for that foot, but we're not going to talk about that. We're dealing with just the basic feet. So we're going to say this is a line with just an extra stress. It's a dimeter because it's got 2 stresses. And I'm going to want to break the foot here. Ah, the sea. And then the next to last line, like I, but more tonight. Holy cow. What have we got here? We've got an iambic trimeter. This is the only trimeter line we've had. It's iambic, so it kind of goes back to this stanza in that it's entirely iambic and very regular. But here it's a trimeter, and this is the only time we've had that. And then look what happens in the last line. In thee. Now we've got iambic monometer. Iambic monometer. So something very odd is happening. I want you to notice the first stanza, perfectly regular, every line. Second stanza, some meters are repeated, the first and the last are the same, but no iambic dimeters. All dimeters, but no iambic dimeters. Things got really mixed up in that stanza. Still dactyls, still dimeters in the third stanza, but a dactyl followed by a trochee. No iambs there. All right, then we start getting the iambs back, and she says, ah, and that's the last time we don't have an iamb. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 iambs in a row. We've gone back to the regularity we started with, but not quite. To make it perfectly regular the way that the first stanza was, we'd have to move this word tonight over here. I've seen some editors do that because they want to fix the poem, but they're not paying attention. This is how she wrote it. This is how she meant it. So the question is, what is going on? Well, let's see how this weird meter creates meaning. Let's think about what this poem is about. Wild nights, where I with thee So we've got someone saying that wild nights would be our luxury if we were together. If we were together, we would have wild nights. And this word luxury has an old-fashioned suggestion of sinfulness. So if we were together, we would have wild nights. So what do we know? We know that there's two people concerned here. There's the I and there's the thee. And the I is speaking. I is saying to thee that if we were together, we would have these sinful, luxury is one of the great sins of the medieval world, these sinful, wild nights. But it says, were I with thee, meaning that's what we call the subjunctive mood, meaning that we're actually not together. I is talking to thee, but thee is not present. There is no thee here. So I is really talking to herself. She's imagining the wild nights she would have with whoever thee is if thee were here. And she continues this imagination. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart. Right? So can you see the emotional quality of these initial stresses? Done with the compass, done with the chart. Right? She's getting worked up here. What does that mean? Well, futile the winds, it means the winds blow to no purpose if your heart, like a boat, is in port and not out at sea. And it doesn't matter how hard the winds blow, it won't take your boat anywhere because it's in port. So she says she is done with the compass, done with the chart. The compass and the chart are the instruments, the tools you have when you're in a boat to take you somewhere that you want to go. But if you're done with the compass and you're done with the chart, then you're just going to go wherever the winds take you. And the winds are a symbol or a metaphor for passion. Rowing in Eden. Well, rowing in Eden, that doesn't sound like anything like being out on the sea without a compass or a chart. That sounds gentle. Ah, the sea. But I'm just done with the compass, done with the chart. Rowing in Eden. Ah, the sea. Might I but more tonight in thee. And why regular? So let's think that through some more. So everything's very regular here. No real passion. Suddenly everything gets all mixed up and passionate. And then there's this ah moment, and everything gets calm again. Back to our simple English I ams. Are you getting it? Do you see what she's doing? Emily Dickinson is having a sexual fantasy where she starts out calm. She gets all excited, and the content and the meter together create this excitement. And then she has this climactic moment of ah, and then everything calms down. So this kind of sexual fantasy, or you might even call it masturbation, that is in the suggestion of the words is also in the rhythm. So why would you do that? Why would you stretch this out instead of doing it in straight dimeters? Because that's the cigarette smoking moment. Right? This is from calm to passion to a different sort of calm. That's how meter works, and I want to invite you to look at some of the other poems to see how meter creates meaning. And to help you out, I will suggest that you look particular at Blake's poem, which is not easy. People have trouble understanding that poem. And My Papa's Waltz. And then perhaps the most complex one of all, Daddy by Sylvia Plath. Listen to that one as well. Oh, and one more, Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. Now, there's something important to the meter in all of these poems, but these are the ones where it's easiest to see the relationship between the meter and the meaning. And that's where interpretation comes in. All right, so good luck. See you next week.